Hi everyone, Tyler Manion here, NPC and IFBB Pro League Vice President. Today I'm doing a recap video for the 3 pro divisions from the Republic of Texas this past weekend. Now I want to do this video to give you guys more of an insight into what we're seeing at the judges table at the show. So there's a couple of different reasons I want to do this, but first I want to address a common theme or misconception that I see nowadays, which is people judging shows off pictures off social media. Pictures don't give you the full idea of what we're actually seeing when you're at the show, let alone at the judges table at a show, where we can see every fiber of every muscle when the competitors are moving, okay? So first, I know we post iPhone pictures on NPC News Online a lot of times to show you the call-outs of the shows. Now, you guys need to keep in mind, iPhone pictures with the stage lighting coming at the phone can make competitors that are extremely soft and out of shape look like they're in shape, okay? So these iPhone pictures are just to give publicity to the show and let people know what's going on. They aren't even close to giving you an idea of what competitors actually are looking like on the stage most of the time. And now, even with professional photos, the photos that the photographers take and post on NPC News Online, these are just a snapshot in time, okay? They're a snapshot of 1 second of a competitor at a show. They really aren't showing you the lines of the competitor, what's happening to the competitor's body when they're moving, what happens when they're posing, everything like this. None of this is represented in photos. And as a competitor, I know people know this. As a coach, I know people know this. Even as fans, when fans actually attend a show, they realize how different it is than watching a show through pictures on Instagram or even through live stream, because you're not getting the insane detail and the details aren't showing through any of these mediums with how they are at a show. So I know a lot of pages and people love the cover bodybuilding and the NPC and IFBB Pro League, which I love because it is great overall for the athletes and the organizations. But I just wish that people would put that out there, especially experienced people that know there is a huge difference from being at a show and not being at a show. So just wanted to get that point out there because I think it's very important, especially for fans of the sport, to realize that you can't start forming and basing strong opinions based just off pictures or these videos. Pictures are a tool that we use to help people see what the competitors look like, but it doesn't give you the 100% full picture. Now, moving on, we're going to go into the recap for the 3 divisions for the show this last weekend. All these athletes are incredible athletes. They're pro athletes doing their best on the stage. So these critiques are meant to be positive and show you what we're seeing and looking for at the judges table. I hope people don't use this video to try to tear down competitors or be negative towards them. I think that happens far too often with how hard these competitors work and, you know, the time they put in and the effort and what they do on stage, because they all look amazing. So I want to get into our first class, which is wellness. And the wellness show here was a very, very interesting show. I think a lot of competitors did not show up 100% on. You know, each one had certain issues that they were dealing with. I'm going to go in first to our winner, which was Frida. Frida was the only competitor that was 100% on point this day. If you were at the show, there was absolutely no doubt that she was the clear winner. Her conditioning was perfect. Her presentation on stage was perfect. She has amazing glutes. Walking to the back, glutes looked awesome, but her legs still need to come up in size, and she knows this. That's the main thing with right now with her physique, going into the Olympia, what she has to work on. She has to bring her legs up still. Now, even though her legs were a little bit small, it didn't matter on this day because it was clear she was in first place. Who's in second, which was Renee Jewett. Now, Renee's body was great. Her legs were the right size for wellness. Shape and the glute size were the right shape for wellness. However, Renee still had a graininess and hardness to her look. She has veins all up through her stomach, just a general hardness that you could see in person with her physique. We don't want to see graininess and hardness in wellness. So that's something that held her back from the top spot. She also had a little bit of loose skin in her glutes whenever she was walking, which is something we take into account as well. That's why we walk the competitors to the front and to the back to see how their bodies are moving on stage. When we say her glutes could be fuller, meaning she needs to have more fullness where her muscle is pressing against her skin, so that does not happen in the future. Renee has a great physique. I think with a couple of tweaks, fixing these problems, she can do great this year and probably try and secure an Olympia qualification. Our third place competitor was Tracy Williams. Her physique was awesome. She just needs to come in a good bit more conditioned in the lower body. Conditioning in the lower body is what held her back. It's what knocked her down a couple spots. Her physique, though, was arguably the best on stage. And this brings me to a point that is another common misconception, and I'll go over this again later. People need to understand that the best physiques do not always win a show. One reason is you can have the best physique on stage, but you might not fit the criteria. The second reason is the best physique might have issues that day. Okay, if we just let whoever had the best physique win the show and we didn't care about their conditioning, their presentation, or anything else or any flaws that were happening when they're on stage, then there would be no reason for a lot of people to compete. Okay, you can win with a worse structure. You can win with not having the best physique overall because of other factors that you're bringing in that day and other people being off. Now going on to fourth place, which was Carrie Goforth. She just needs a little bit more size in her legs as well. Her glutes look great. She kind of flexed them a little bit, which caused them to show a little bit of striation in the back pose. We don't want to see striations in the glutes and wellness. And she tended to breathe through her stomach on stage and didn't have enough waist control on stage, or something she needs to work on. Some little things there. The main thing for her is leg size, but she was probably the second most on point conditioning and overall presentation wise with the show. It's just her physique needs to improve to jump up over some better physiques, like I just explained. There's also one competitor I want to talk about too, which is Michelle Abada from Brazil. Now, if I'm going to continue to do these videos, sometimes there's stuff that we see at the judges table and that we notice that we will address with that athlete and their coach only. So there was something that we saw with Michelle that we addressed with her and her coach. I'm not going to talk about it here. They know what they need to correct. And when this is corrected, her placing will reflect that. And I'm sure she will do much, much better at the show because physique wise, she was very, very good. Her glutes are a little square. She needs to round them out a little bit more, and her quads are right at that point of density where it's almost too much. So she needs to be careful with that. But her physique overall looked great this day. There was just something we noticed that we marked her down for, and that her and her coach know that they need to correct going forward. Next, we'll go into our recap for bikini. I'll recap the top 6 here for you guys. First place, we had Lexus Redmond. She showed up with a great package this day. Her conditioning was on point. Overall, she exhibited what we want to look for in bikini. A slight cap to her shoulders that were not too dense. Okay, I'm going to go into this whenever I make my bikini video as well this week so you guys can understand some points I'm making. But her shoulders are slightly capped, but they do not have a density to them that we see when you start moving into figure. She has a nice hourglass shape, natural hourglass shape with her upper body that flows into her lower body that looks balanced top to bottom, has some nice shape to her legs from the front. Her back pose was awesome. She's improved a lot. From the back, it was clear that she was the winner of the show for this show. Now, things she can improve on, sometimes she gets out of her front pose and doesn't hit it the same way, or she flexes her lat a little bit too much. We don't want to see girls flexing their lat. We just want them to have a nice hourglass shape to their physique. With their shoulder and arm relaxed, their lat should not be flexed out to the side like a figure girl. Just little adjustments that she'll need to make. She could also use a little bit more depth, like a tiny bit more depth to her glutes, especially when she's doing her walk to the back. Those are her 2 main things to focus on for the Olympia, but overall, she brought a great package. Now, second place was India Paulino. Her conditioning and fullness was on point. It was probably actually the best combination of conditioning and fullness that we saw on stage that day. That's what put her into second place. She moves around and fidgets a lot with her front pose as well. Also sometimes flares her lat because she's trying to probably compensate because her upper body to lower body balance is a little bit off. So the main thing she needs to focus on moving forward is balancing out her upper to her lower body. But the conditioning and fullness for bikini was nailed that day. Overall, she brought a great look. Her and Lexus were great for the top two this day. Next competitor was Adair Lebrecht in third place. For the last few shows that she's been at that I've judged, she's been in that top 5. Again, she has a nice slight cap to her shoulders, a nice natural hourglass shape, a nice shape to her legs in the front pose. Her upper body to lower body is balanced. She still needs to work on bringing in her waist a little bit. And yes, this is something where she's just going up against competitors that naturally have a little bit of a better structure and smaller waist than she does. So that's something that just some little tweaks here and there are going to do. Her conditioning in her back pose was good. Her glutes were nice and full. Overall, she brought a great package for bikini. And this show was just a very, very good show overall. I think about the top 8 and 9 competitors that on a different weekend, their placings could probably all be mixed up because they're all very, very close to each other physique-wise. That's how it is in pro bikini. You know, you guys make it very, very tough on us. I think you don't realize that the margins of error are so slim because you guys have brought it to a point where your physiques are so close to each other that it really is tough to judge. Now, moving on to our next competitor, Jordan Brandon. She was in 4th place. She brought a great overall look. We worked on her front pose on backstage after the show. She was kind of hiding her hamstring a little bit, the way her leg placement was, so it kind of cuts off half of her leg. So once she fixed that, her front pose overall is going to be great. From the back, she needs to be a little bit more conditioned in her glute ham area and have a little bit more depth to her glutes in the back to really make her glutes pop. The glutes are her main focus. She's brought them up a lot, I think, from last year, but that's what she needs to tweak going forward, but she can do very well moving forward as well. 5th place, we had Tara Greer. Her glutes are great. She needs to bring up her legs just a tiny little bit to match her glutes so they're in balance. She's also just a little hard on her legs. You could see a little bit of split in her legs when she's walking. So she needs to find that balance of fullness for her conditioning where we don't see that. She can also work on bringing in her waist a little bit more to give her more of that natural hourglass shape in her front pose. And then in 6th place, we had Jordan Fisher. Now, Jordan has won a show this year, and she ended up in 6th place in the show. The reason she was in 6th place is because her quads are a little too dense for bikini. We don't want to see this kind of density in the quads. So there's a difference when we talk about size and density. You can be too big, you can be too dense, or you can be both. And Jordan right now, size-wise is not bad, but density to her quads, she has too much density. You see when she walks here, the detail in her leg in the front. That's too much density with her quads. So that's why she was out of the top 5 at this show. Also because we had a lot of great competitors. But it's something that she needs to bring down moving forward to the Olympia. Now we'll move into men's physique. Men's physique, I'm going to give you the recap of the top 4, the first call out. So in 1st place, we had Jason Hun. Jason brought overall, by far, the best package that I've ever seen him bring. After talking with him and his coach, apparently they lost a good amount of weight actually from the last show that he did. And what happened when he did this is he brought his arms down in size, but his waist also came in a good bit as well. So it accentuated a smaller waist, a better taper from his front pose. This changed how he looked a lot, okay? He's a smaller competitor that doesn't have the widest shoulders, so he doesn't have the greatest taper. However, on this day, his conditioning was by far the best on stage. Conditioning, fullness, how everything popped on him. There was no doubt that he was the winner, especially after we looked again at the finals. The thickness in the back and the details in the back that he was able to show through his conditioning sealed the deal for him on this day. Next, we have Jeremy Potvin. Now, Jeremy Potvin has a better physique than Jason when he's on. However, he was flat this day. He was pretty flat at prejudging, but once he got his front pose and he hit his hand on hip front pose, and even sometimes when he was posing from the back, he was pushing Jason, even being somewhat flat. However, once we looked again at the confirmation round at the final, he actually flattened out a little bit more from prejudging, and that's what had him ended up in 2nd place. His conditioning itself was great. He was just flat. The abs weren't popping through enough. The back wasn't popping enough. So probably just a little tweak because he was in very good condition, but that's going to help him moving forward into these next shows that I know he's going to do coming up. In 3rd place, we had Javert Mollings. Now, Javert's physique is awesome. There's no doubt about it. I think he has a great physique for men's physique. But for him, there was still a layer on his abs and on his back that basically blurred out. He was not in the right conditioning yet. Now, of course, if you would look at pictures, it's something that you can't really tell too much from pictures. However, being in person, you can tell he was still a week to two off of what he needs to be conditioning wise so he could win this show. The abs need to come in more. You can tell when you're in person when someone's abs are really in and when they're not. You can tell by the striations and everything like that. He didn't have that through the abs. He didn't have that through the back at all. He still could use a little bit more to his lower lats and his back pose, and his shoulders could come down just a touch as they're just a touch overpowering. But overall, I think he's a week or two away from a really, really strong performance, and he has a great physique for the men's physique division. And lastly, in fourth, we had Ramses Rams. Ramses is always someone that shows up in shape. He showed up in great shape again today. It's just naturally he has a little bit of a wider and a thicker waist than the competitors that place above him. He also tends to pinch his traps in his back pose, which takes away from his width. So he needs a little bit more width to his back to compensate for having a little bit of a thicker waist. And he cannot make mistakes while he's posing. Men's physique has two poses. If you make a mistake on one, it's going to cost you. And yes, we turn you guys around multiple times, but when you're making the same mistake multiple times, it's something that we're not going to move you in for it. Eventually, you're probably going to be moved out for something. His conditioning was on point. His arms do not need to be any bigger, especially with how he's trying to add width to his back. So he's right there. He shows up consistently, still just adding a little bit more width, correcting his posing, making sure he doesn't squeeze his back on stage. And he's a guy, too, that I think can go on and try to get his Olympia qualification. But that's the recap for men's physique. Overall, I hope this recap video helps you guys. I hope it's a positive. I'm going to see how people react to it. Hopefully, it's a positive reaction. And hopefully, in the future, at not every show, but at more shows that I'm at, I will be able to do some recap videos to give you guys an idea of what we're seeing at the table and what we're looking for. So hopefully this provides some transparency into what we're doing. And I hope this clears up some common misconceptions that I see running around online about, judging shows through pictures and through videos that, when you go to a show and you're actually at the show in person, things are a lot different than what they look like through the pictures and through the videos. So signing off, this is Tyler Manion. Thank you guys. I appreciate all your support.